I'm going to take it in a little bit of a different direction. I know what the topic is, but I want to talk about how I think we need to build the case for sustainability. I've been introduced. My name is Paul. Pleased to meet you all, and thanks to everyone who's organised this event. It really is truly fantastic. I'm going to start off with a little bit of a story. Now, 5 years ago, I ran 250 kilometers across the Sahara Desert. I had everything I needed. I had everything I needed to survive that event strapped to my back. I had all my equipment, all my food, all my gear, anything I needed to try and guide me there. I spent each day, we traveled anywhere between 35 kilometers and 90 kilometers across the unforgiving landscape of the Sahara Desert, temperatures reaching 45 degrees Celsius. It was an epic adventure, but importantly, I didn't have to do it, I chose to do it. And what it taught me was that things that you would never have thought were achievable can be achieved. And they can be achieved by committing to a long-term vision, committing to a long-term goal, and working through a series of strategic and tangible elements. Moving forward each time, you can achieve some fantastic things. And I think that, for me, really aligns with the challenges that we find in sustainability, because sustainability really is all about making short-term changes now, making things a little bit more challenging now, in order that many years in the future, we've got a better version of reality and we've moved further towards our goals. However, we've got a sales problem, I believe, in sustainability, and I think it's the onus is on us to try and push the agenda forward. Now, I was speaking to my daughter the other day, who told me that she was being taught at her school in Abu Dhabi. I've also made the journey, yes. That she's been taught about the green movement, sustainability at her school, and her words to me were that her and her peers were finding it, well, a little bit dull, a little bit boring. Now, she's 12, so the future generation aren't getting taken on the journey that we are all moving on. Now, I think there's a reason for that, and I think we are in danger sometimes of not being tangible enough, and the previous speaker was quite right. I do support it. The word sustainability is bandied about quite often, and I think we have to put some meat on the bones, and to do that, I think it moves towards tangible goals, tangible targets, and strategic inputs in order to get to where you need to get to. And much like preparing and executing an endurance ultra-marathon, you can't do it unless you understand where you're trying to get to. You won't be able to go through the hard times, to get up every morning, to do the hard yards when all you want to do is just sit on your sofa, unless you've got a real tangible target and a real tangible goal. And I think that's one of the things that as leaders we want to be trying to instill across our teams. But there's going to be objections, there's going to be doubts, and I know myself, again, linking back to the story that I started with. One of the days that we were traveling through the Sahara, I remember it was a 90 kilometers day. I remember being about 70 kilometers through that day. It was night, it was dark, and it's very dark in the desert, as I'm sure we've all been out and done overnight stays. All you've got is a head torch, and you're thinking to yourself, is this possible? Is this what we're trying to do? Is it achievable? Well, it is, again, if you've committed and you continue to move towards that very specific goal, and you understand that it's really just about moving forward each time. And I think when it comes to our industry, the brands and the companies who have already started on that journey, who've put effort into that journey, who've potentially done some of the hard yards, are now reaping some of those rewards because, well, operating costs are perhaps down, the sustainability metrics are perhaps up, things are looking a little bit better. The brands who haven't, who are perhaps still to start the journey or delaying things a little bit, are now faced with the potential spectre of the likes of carbon taxes or rising energy costs, especially in other parts of the world. I know here we're kind of shielded a little bit from that. But again, it's those taking action over time are starting to reap the rewards. But again, in reality, and we're all in the business of reality, we are still very much damned if you do and damned if you don't. We're kind of damned in the way that if we spend money now, if we invest money now, we've got short-term pressures, we've got businesses to run, we've got operational metrics to use, so there's pressures there in terms of being able to navigate that long-term ROI discussion with those who sign the checks. But then we're damned if we don't, because as we're saying, if we're not moving forward in that journey towards that strategic goal in terms of sustainability, then we're perhaps even worse off. And I would argue, if you're damned if you don't, sorry to keep using that word, but if you're damned if you don't, then you've got the worst of both worlds, as Bart Simpson is kindly helping us understand. Now, it was great to hear from Accor earlier talking about the value proposition, because this chart on the left, which I picked up, is showing that even in the UAE, more than 50% of guests, of potential guests, are willing to pay more than 10%, more than 10% premium for a green hotel booking. And we can argue at length about what a green hotel booking means, but it shows that the societal demand is there, and the market demand is there. So very much the business case is pretty much there. And in terms of business, in terms of being tangible, there's nothing more tangible than money. And we've been doing some work in the UK with a hotel chain called McDonald Hotels. Now, they manage one of the resorts in Aviemore. If anyone's been to Scotland, there's a lovely place in the Highlands. I highly recommend you take a visit. There's some wonderful hotels there. And as part of that research, we're reviewing just the kind of landscape of the energy demand market in the UK. And there's a lot of money being spent. There's a lot of money, and we spoke earlier, again, in one of the other presentations, about the big lever that is energy and carbon. So one of the straightforward ways to move forward is to look at energy saving programs, and there's been wonderful examples of those across the day. And I'm always eager to, again, refer back to the value proposition, in that if the customers are willing to pay extra, and we're also able to reduce the operational cost, then we're winning on both sides. Plus, there's also the value proposition of guest satisfaction, referrals, and knowing that your brand is in a good place in terms of that sustainability space. But to kind of connect us back to the original start of this brief presentation, for me, I believe that the challenge that we have and the way to push us all forward is to understand that we all as individuals have a role to play in our organizations. Our organizations are a collection of us as individuals. There's nothing mysterious about an organization. And if each one of us is considering a long-term viewpoint rather than prioritizing a short-term view, I think that it's really possible to drive the agenda forward across all sectors and across all industries in terms of sustainability. But not only that, the value of the outcome is many times more the value of the inputs, and being able to put that into place and put that message through our teams and get our teams all working towards that common long-term vision, I think is super critical. And I think we all have the opportunity to do that as leaders in our industry. But to close us off, and I'll manage hopefully to meet the 10 minutes. If someone like me can go and cross the Sahara Desert, then all of us can move the needle forward in our organizations and really drive us towards our targets in net zero 2050. And I'll close it off at that. Thank you very much for your time.